What's up YouTube, Dow here from Z4 Games, bringing you the test hand combo video for the Code Talker profile that I did for you guys the other day. Now this deck is incredibly powerful and it has an insane ceiling. The only issue and what is holding it back from being a meta dominant deck is if you do not resolve the Nightmare Corruptor Ibli combo, you are going to get hit with every hand trap under the sun, which will stop this generating. With that being said, it is still an incredibly powerful deck to be taken to locals, and a deck that will really catch your opponent off guard because it's going first level of power and going second level of power is just as good. With all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell and subscribe so you do not miss out on any more upcoming content from the channel. With all of that out of the way, let's get into our test hands for today, where we will do 2 test hands going first and 2 test hands going second, to showcase the ability of this deck. Now, after a very decent shuffle and a good old cut, our opening hand of 5 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, it's actually a very good hand because the only downside, well, our only normal summon is going to be the Corruptor Ibli, which is fine because we've actually got 2 additional extenders in the form of the Math Mechs, an additional extender in the Parallel Xyz, and an extender in the Code Radiator. Now, obviously, to make this even better, you kind of want to be able to get into your Cynet codec, but this is going to show you what you can do without it, and how you're going to be able to still present a pretty decent board for your opponent to try and break, even without having to go into much detail. So, you're going to normal summon your Corruptor Ibli, you're going to special summon your Sigma, because you've got no monster in the extra monster zone, it is a free summon, and what makes Sigma even better is it's one of the best discards off of something like Cynet Mining, because you just get to bring it back anyway, so you're not actually negging any point. Then what you can do here is you're just going to link 2 straight away, you're not even going to worry about link 1s, and you're going to go into your Code Talker. Now, what you can do here is you are going to resolve your Ibli because you can give that to your opponent, which means they cannot Nibiru you, they cannot Gamma you from this point on. It also means that unless they specifically have a way of outing Ibli themselves, they're not going to be able to pretty much combat it. So what you're then going to be able to do from here is you've got a couple of plays to move forward. The biggest choke point on this is if they DD Crow it, that's when you kind of go, oh, goddamn. But from this point here, you still have 3 insanely good extenders. You do have the ability to try and chain block your Ibli with your Parallel Xyz if you want to. And because you've opened up with the Math Mechs, that's where the Math Mech engine can probably come in to give you a little bit more utility. Now, your Sigma is banished because you did use its effect to special summon itself, so also keep that in mind. Now, you've got a couple of options here. You can use the Code Radiator effect to link from hand, or you can just use the Math Mech Addition effect to summon itself down, giving Code Talker an extra 1,000. It really doesn't matter. Again, you could also use the Parallel Xyz. You could use all of these in one big go, or you can stage them out as you go, just in case your opponent tries to stop you at any point. You still have the ability to chain block and to go a little bit further. So we use Addition to give Code Talker an additional 1,000, and then what you're going to do here is you're going to link these 2 together, and you're going to go into your Transcode Talker. That will then use Transcode Talker's effect to bring back the Code Talker to a zone it points to. You still have more plays to go through from here as well, and it really depends on the options that you want to kind of make. If you did have, or if you did hold back and you went for your Parallel Xyz early on, or if you wanted to use off of your Code Talker, then it would allow you to get an additional summon off of the back of Code Talker inverted. So you do have to keep in mind how far you need to go in order to get the abilities that you want. Now, you can kind of skip ahead a little bit, you can kind of defer a little bit as well. The issue with this is we're not going to get the full lock because we do need the ability to kind of keep cycling through our deck using the codec. But keep in mind, you've locked your opponent down with Corruptor Ibli, which is a massive point already, and then you still have the ability, if you wanted to, just make Avramax and pass. We're not going to do that, but that is an option that you can keep in mind. Then what you can do here is you can use the Radiator in hand to link someone with your Code Talker, and that will then allow you to go into And you can go into a Xcode Talker if you want to, and what that will do is that will boost these two, but it also lock one of your opponent's main monster zones out. Or you can go into Splash Mage. The only reason you'd be going into Splash Mage is to generally just link climb higher up anyway. And then you could also go into Tri-Gate Wizard, but without the ability to constantly co-link your Tri-Gate, which can be a little bit difficult in this scenario, there's no real need to do it. Now, obviously, if you did go for your Tri-Gate, you would then trigger the Parallel XZs, or we are going to be triggering the Parallel XZs depending on whatever one we're going to. What this basically allows you to do is it will allow you to get you a double-linked transcode and, of course, a Avramax. But we won't have any kind of monster that can point right, I don't believe. No, we don't. To help you kind of complete the third link here. So your best option would be to go to Xcode Talker, trigger the Parallel XZs effect, which can then get you the additional one from the deck. Now again, keep in mind your opponent cannot summon because they're locked, or they can't special summon because they're locked under Corruptor Ibley. So now you've got a couple of options of how you want to kind of take this one further forward. Now with Xcode Talker, does it have to be another one? Number of monsters currently in the extra monster zone. Those zones can't be used while this monster is face on the field. Yeah. So you've locked out, because you've got one extra monster zone, you've locked out a zone. So you can lock out the zone right in front of this. Entirely up to you. Now you've got your options here. If you wanted to, you could go for your Prime Mathmit Albertarian. The only thing you're going to be searching off of this, with the particular setup you have, will be the Billion Blade, but which is of no use right now. But what you can do is you can turn, as these are both level 4s, you can turn one of these into a Link Garibo, which means you can protect yourself from traps, and then you can turn one of these into a Baylink should you want to. It really depends on where you kind of want to go for on this route. And something that was mentioned to me as well is that if you wanted to, you could play the Sanctuary, and then because by playing the Sanctuary, your opponent wouldn't be able to break your Avramax lock because they would attack the Avramax, and then I believe you can use the Sanctuary effect to make Avramax go to 0. You don't take battle damage, so it means they just can't just crash the Ibley into your Avramax, is basically the way you're going. But then what you want to do here is you want to ideally use your Transcode Talker plus your Baylinks, or your Link Garibo, really depends, but I'm keeping that on there to protect me from traps, and we're going to go into the Avramax. Now, keep in mind, because this is still on the board, the zone that this points to in front of that link zone, their opponent can't use. So if you've put gave them the Ib in front of this zone here, then they can't really use a link monster pointing down. So you've already put them in a bad situation. They can't attack any of these because you've got Avramax on board. And on top of that, monsters this card points to gain 500 attack, and they can't be destroyed by card effect. So Avramax is going up to 35, and Link Garibo is 800. So the issue with this is, or this current setup, is if your opponent wanted to, they could switch the ability to attack, take 35 to the face, and then they're able to special summon. So if they're then able to play after that, that's where you've got a bit of a, not a deterrent, but a bit of a downside. And that's kind of why I understand that the Sanctuary is a nice little tech, which I might put into the deck going further forward. But this also stops your opponent trying to crash this and then evenly match you, or crash this and imperm you, or anything like that. So that's a nice bit of protection from them as well. So that is just a way of locking down the Ibley, letting you go full power without them being able to go, oh, you know what, I'm going to now try and interrupt you. Now, to obviously get to that level of play, you did need to open up quite a lot of extenders, purely because you don't get the codec. So the way this works, and this is why the deck is built this particular way, is you only want to open up one normal summon and then loads of extenders, or you want to open up one normal summon and your codec. And as long as you've got the ability, like if it's through debug will be a bit more consistent, but if it's through IB, as long as you've got an extender in play, then you're able to pretty much go that bit further. So that's where you ideally want to be going. So, after another decent shuffle and a good old cut, we will do a second test hand going first, being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Technically, this is beyond broken. So this is all you need. The only downside you have is your opponent can Nibiru you hard. Now, if you're going first and they're maining Nibiru, well, that's just a bad luck. But chances are they probably aren't going to be maining Nibiru in your game 1. In your game too, you could put in stuff like Prohibition, you could put in stuff to try and counteract the Nibiru, that is entirely up to you. But these two are full combo here, and then just being able to have the Radiator and the Generator just gives you even more. So normal summon your Debug's effect will go off to get you. Now, again, you've got two options here. Because you've already got the codec, you could go for your Corruptor Ibli. Now, the reason you would go for your Corruptor Ibli is, at a later point in the combo, you can give your opponent the Ibli. Now, it really depends on how worried you are. So if you know what your opponent's playing, for example, if they're playing like Eldritch Zoo, then I would probably go with Ibli and give them Ibli. Because the only reason that you would use, or the only other card that you would go for in this scenario would be, where are you? Microcoder. And the only thing that Microcoder is going to get you is a counter trap. Now, the counter trap, yes, of course, will stop anything because it's an Omni-Negate, but if your opponent can play that one card and then still go off, you'll be better off with the Ibli. So, it really depends on your playstyle. For safety reasons, I would go for the Corrupted Ibli. Purely because I've got the codec. If I don't have the codec, then I'd be going for microcoder. Clear as day. So then what you're going to do here is you're then going to use one of your extenders in here because you've already got these as well. If you didn't have these, then you'd definitely be going for that. So you're going to use the generator first to link summon using debug and go to Code Talker. And then the best thing about this, and again at this point as well, you can add a Silas monster with the same attribute. So you can add the microcoder now. So it really doesn't matter which way you did it. So yeah, because we've linked someone Code Talker, you can go Chainlink 1 Codec, Chainlink 2 Generator, and then Generator will send, wherever he is, Dotscaper from the deck to the hand, and then your Codec will allow you to add a microcoder, which basically just gives you that free extender anyway. Dotscaper will summon itself back because it was sent to the graveyard. Broken, I know. Then you're going to have the ability to link these up without even needing to use an additional extender and go into your transcode. Transcode's effect will trigger. Now, because we've already been able to resolve the Radiator and that effect, the next Earth that you want to go for, which also protects your Trigate Wizard, will be your Gatachi Atignista. And then, of course, your transcode is going to go off as well, so you can chain block, go 1 and 2, or 1 and 2, whichever way you want it, and that's going to bring back your Code Talker. Now, with this one here, again, you've got 3 extenders, so you just keep on going. Because what you want to do is you want to go microcoder to use the Code Talker, and that will then allow you to go into, oh, sorry, I'm skipping ahead a bit. That will allow you to go into your Code Talker inverted. You've then got the ability to go Chainlink 1 of Code Talker inverted, Chainlink 2 of Codec, and Chainlink 3 of your microcoder, because in my opinion, the microcoder is the least important card right now. Like, if I get the counter track, great, but I'm not really, like, I'd rather get the light off of this, and I'd rather get the summon off of inverted. So microcoder will get you the Signet Conflict, Code Talker inverted, not Code Talker inverted, the Signet Codec will give you a light. Now you just want to go for any extender. So in this scenario, you can go for the Catchy Eye level 2, or just for consistency reasons, you can also go for your backup set tree, and that's what we're going to go for. Now, in normal scenarios, if you don't want the Nightmare Ibli to hit the board, you would go with your Silas Gadget, because that gives you the free extender anyway. But because I want to get the Ibli to the board, because I want to then like give my opponent the point of saying, now's the time you need to Nibiru me. If you don't Nibiru me now, I'm still going to be able to make plays. So I summon down the Ibli off of the back of the Code Talker inverted. You don't want to link the Ibli away straight away. If you're really worried, you can do. So if you're like really worried and you're like, okay, my opponent at any point can cause me an issue, you then link that away into your Talkback Lancer, and then that will give them Nightmare Ibli. So you give them Ibli, they now, from this point on, can't Gamma you, can't Imperm you, technically, can't Evenly you, and they can't Nibiru you. So, just a foresight that if you are worried, you can put them in that predicament. And then what you can do is you can special summon down the backup set tree because you control Cyverse monsters. They are all Cyverse. And then what you want to do here is you want to link these two together and go into your Splash Mage. Your Splash Mage will revive any Cyverse. Doesn't matter what one you bring back because his effects are negated anyway. And then what you're going to do there is you're going to instantly link into an X-Code Talker. This is when you can trigger X-Code Talker's effect and the Codex effect. Codec effect will get you a win Cyverse. Guess what? Parallel Azizes. Nice! And then Code Talker will then target Obviously, you've got a transcode on the board. We'll target an unused monster zone and lock that down for your opponent. And then from this point, what you want to do is you want to special summon your Gitachi, negating the effects of Code Talker inverted, and you want to link these two together to make yourself a Tri-Gate wizard. Your Tri-Gate is now unaffected by your opponent's card effects. Beautiful. And you also want to trigger your Parallel XZs. This will then special summon down Parallel XZs, and it will also special summon the one from the deck. Beautiful. And again, depending on how you want to kind of approach this, you can go one or two ways. But what you want to do from here is you then want to go, right, Parallel XZs number 1 can go into Link Karibo. You will then want to use Link Karibo plus your Transcode Talker and go into Avramax. And then you want to turn the final Parallel XZs into a Balinx. And then you've got the full Tri-Gate lock here. You've got the attack lock of Avramax, and then you set the conflict. And more I do this, the more and more I'm like, you know what, I really want to add the Sanctuary in, even though it's like a major brick. Like, you can see how consistent you can get into a Balinx to then try and protect your Avramax lock. And thinking about it more, it's just so much scary that my opponent goes, all right, Ibli, crash, they take 3,000 damage, or 3,500, depending on where you, well, I think it's only 3,000, isn't it? This is already boosted up. Kind into battles. Yeah. So then you still got the ability of conflicts. You've got a negate there, you've got a negate there, and you've got battle protection there. And then they're not able to special summon unless they're able to get rid of that card. So it does give them a lot to kind of think about and a lot of routes to kind of consider. So yeah, and you still have Code Radiator and Lady Debug. So if you really wanted to at some point, you could adaptively change the ability of going into one of your link monsters and try and link up higher. But then obviously in the future, what you can do is you can replace Transcode with Firewall. And I believe there's also a combo where you replace Xcode with Firewall, and it gives you a bounce as well. So then you get a bounce, you get a negate, and you've got attack protection as well. So again, it gives you a lot to play with. But that is just future aspirations. This is where Konami don't release it, and you're like, oh no, I want Firewall. Like the one deck that doesn't care if Firewall has his errata or not. Like, the errata doesn't mean anything here. Anyway, so now we're going to reset, shuffle, and go again. But now we're going to go second. So we're going to show you, again, you don't really need the additional card. The additional card just kind of makes it more consistent to resolve that effect. And this is where the deck can struggle, because if you're not playing stuff like Droplets, and this is where the side deck comes into play, you play Droplets, you play Nibiru's, you play Lightning Storms, you just side in general board breakers, and you'd probably take out the Conflict, you'd probably take out like your go first cards that are specific. Just to kind of break your opponent's board, because then once you break it and you're able to go off freely, that's where you're pretty much just going to be able to go, yo, I'm here. Another card I considered was Link Spider to get rid of the token for Nibiru, but I haven't really played around with it yet. Anyway, so our test stand of 6 will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so the one big difference that we have here is the Code Radiator is pretty broken, because Code Radiator, if we use it from the field, that is anyway, we can reduce and negate 2 of our opponent's monster effects, which is really nice. We've opened up technically 3 extenders. One of the Code Radiators is free fodder, and the Format Skipper again is a really good card to open up with, because he can then, because he's a Cyberse obviously, he has the ability to search you out any level 5 or higher Cyberse, so that gives you another route to get into your Parallel XZs. So again, it depends on the route you want to go, and Format Skipper can instigate the OTK into access code as well. So what you want to do here is you can normal summon your Format Skipper. You just pretty much turn this into any Link one. Again, if you go Balinx, you can search out the Sanctuary, which gives you additional discard. Other than that, you could go into Link Karibo if you're worried about their traps. Absolutely anything. You're not really too worried about it, to be honest. You just want to trigger this to give you the level 5 or higher, which will be your Parallel XZ. And then because you've got your extenders in the backup Sentry, you've got the extender in the Code Radiator, it depends on how early you want to use this. But you can go Code Radiator, target the Talkback Lancer to link with these. Specifically, you need to go into a Code Talker. So you'd go into normal Code Talker. Radiator will then reduce one of your opponent's monsters to 0 and negate its effect. So you've got an open world, let's go through there. And you can then trigger your Parallel XZs as well. Now what we want to do is we want to kind of build up so that our Gitachi is one of the materials used for our access code. So that's kind of where we're looking to build. So resolving parallel Xyz in this point, again, puts your opponent in a bit of a predicament where they're like, right, okay, do I like, where do I go to now? How do I stop this from this point on? So then we've gone into the parallel Xyz. Now, again, you have the ability to make the rank 4s. And one of the good rank 4s you can actually make in this, especially going second, is your Firewall Xyz Dragon. So if you do put like a link 4, if you go into a link 4, put it in the graveyard, you make this and then bring it back. And then Xyz is going to get a nice boost of all of the link 4s that are linked to it. So if you were, for example, access code here, Xyz here, and then bring back Avramax here, he's going to get boosted by 8k, 4k. So again, would be pretty nutty. You also have the ability for Splash Mage right now. You've got a route to pretty much go wherever you want to go off of the back of your parallel Xyz. It's entirely up to you. You can just go normal transcode OTK as well. It really depends on the routes. So I'm also going to bring down the backup set tree because we're going to go that tad bit further. We can link the parallels together. We can go into the inverted. Inverted can trigger the effect to bring down the irradiator. And then what you want to do here is you can actually, as long as this zone's not used, if this zone's used, then you need to use, actually no, it doesn't matter. You can use your code talker and your irradiator. Now, obviously, if you don't want to reduce your monster's effect on this one, you can save the irradiator, and the irradiator can now negate 2 instead. No, you don't want to put transcode there. What am I talking about? Yeah, I wanted to do this. There we go. So you want to keep your total. So you use your inverted, and then what you do is then transcode can then bring back the inverted, which is perfectly fine. And again, it really just depends on how far you want to go. Like, I can just go, right, make access code, or make access code, and pretty much end the game there. So you've also got the Gitachi, which is kind of what you want to do. So what you can also do is you can special summon down the Gitachi, negate the effects of Code Talker Inverted, because it's just no longer needed right now. You can link these together. You can go into access code. Where are you? Access code can go there. Access code is going to gain the effects. Another option that you could do before you did all of that is you could use Code Talker Inverted plus your backup sentry. This is just obvious overkill. No reason to do any of this whatsoever. So use both of those. Go into your update jammer. Bring down the Gitachi, negating transcode, it doesn't really matter. And then what you want to do here is you want to use all of these just for full protection. Like, you're going to get OTK. So just for full protection, because then what you've got is update jammer lets transcode access code attack twice. Gitachi means he's unaffected by monster effects, so even it means they can't go on resolution, do whatever. And then because you use transcode, he's going to gain 3k. So he's currently on 53, can attack twice. He currently has 1, 2, 3, and 4 different attribute in the graveyard to banish and pop. So that's clearing 4 cards. You've negated 2 card effects. You've still got a 1300 Code Talker as well, and it gains 500 attack for each monster this card points to, so it also is up on 18. So, again, entirely up to you on where you want to go, but you can just see, like, as a obscure route, I'm not saying this is the perfect route, but as a very obscure route, you've set yourself up with pop 4, negate 2, attack. So if your opponent's got a board of 5 monsters, let's say, okay, you attack one with Code Talker, you banish 4 to pop 4, and then you just go attack, tap the game. Done. So yeah, and you still got a call. Like, we just use 5 cards in that. You still have the Call by the Grave. So if they try to hand trap like Ash you at any point, you just go Call by. Done. Yeah, so a very obscure way of getting the OTK in that one, but still, that's the route. That's kind of the route you want to go. You want to go with the access code, but then if you want to keep it simple, you go for double attack transcode. If you want to make it more convoluted, you can go for Avramax, and it really depends. If you're going to end the turn there, then you go access code route, or you go transcode route. If you're not able to end the turn there, that's where you'll probably go Avramax, because at least with Avramax, you're going to get a bit of battle protection as well. So, after another decent shuffle and a good old cut, we will do our final test hand going second for this deck. So, after a good old cut, it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow, okay. Parallel Xyz is like, bro, I want to be in your hand. Fine. The chances are we probably already activated Ghost Ogre. Binion Blade is a very interesting tech. This can give you follow-up plays, but you don't need to use it in this scenario. But it also gives you a route to kind of beat over extensively powerful monsters. Now, the route you want to do for on the Silent Mining is, if you don't think either... These two are the dead cards, in my opinion. These are the cards you can probably just get rid of and not really worry about. Ogre might have already been used. If you don't think you're going to need to use the Ogre... So if your opponent's got a Zeus, you'll keep the Ogre. If they haven't, you can get rid of the Ogre. So, really depends. It's entirely up to you. You've still got a lot of place to go from this point on. So, don't even worry about it. So, let's get rid of... Let's get rid of the Ghost Ogre, okay? I think that on a scale of things, it's the least effective. So what you want to go for is the Lady Debug. Normal Summon Lady Debug. Pray and hope they haven't got a negate. If they do, you go, cool, bye. Unless it's a negate on field, and then you go, oh, that's sad. Debug, this time will get you your microcoder because you actually want to search it. You're then going to activate your microcoder. You're going to go straight into your code talker. Trigger microcoder's effect to get you the codec, but also trigger your parallel XZ's effect as well. So yeah, there's the codec off of that. Triggering the parallel XZs. You don't need to trigger the parallel XZs because you've got the Monster Reborn, but at least with the parallel XZs, again, it puts your opponent under a little bit more pressure. So you have parallel XZ there. And when we get to the second copy, there we go. Parallel XZ. And then you've got the ability to just pretty much link climb. Is what we're going to work into. So if you want your card to be unaffected when you go into transcode, then you want to specifically search off of the codec. You want to make sure you specifically search the Gitachi. If you don't really care about the Gitachi and you're just there to link climb higher, then you're going to go for your generator. So we're going to go with that. Trigger transcode to bring back Code Talker. Perfect. Oh, now you got to be careful because when you make the transcode talker inverted, you still need to have code talker inverted. Sorry, you still need to have a Cyverse in the hand. So you've got to make sure you don't actually use the generator, because then what you can do here is you can go right, link these two together, go into the transcode talker. Again, these are all extended. You don't need to do this. Like quite simply, I could just go right, put these two into update jammer. Sorry, not update jammer, because it needs to be 2 level 2 higher. So I wouldn't be able to do update jammer on that one. But you could play Monster Reborn, for example. So if you wanted to just cut to the end, skip to the end on this one, you activate Monster Reborn, bring back any monster. You, as long as it is level 2 or higher Cyverse, link the two of those into an update jammer, which would go... I can't, do we? Alright, ignore me. Alright, ignore me trying to skip phases. Just ignore all of that. Code Talker inverted. So you'd go Chainlink 1 of Code Talker inverted, Chainlink 2 of Codec, because you do have a target in the hand to summon. Codec will search you out a light Cyverse. So you'll go for your gadget. You'll then resolve the Talker to special summon down the Cyverse gadget. And then once you link off the gadget as well, you're then going to gain a token. So keep that in mind. You can then use the code generator as long as you're going for a Code Talker monster. If you're not going for a Code Talker monster, then you need to change it up a little bit more. So then another option that you have is you go Monster Reborn, bring back anything, link these two together. Again, this is where you can kind of skip a step and go into update jammer, but we're just going to pretty much go through combo because we can. Splash Mage, you get the token off of the gadget, which we'll put there, and then you'll get the Splash Mage effect to bring back any Cyverse, doesn't really matter. You still got, like, as you can see, you've got access to access code on here. Entirely up to you. It really doesn't matter. This is what's so cool about this, is it can just climb and climb and climb and climb. It's just beautiful. So then you can use the token plus Splash Mage to go into your X Code Talker. That could then trigger this, but obviously we opened up Parallel XZ, so what are you going to do? You could also use Code Generator, but what we can do as well is you can use your Code Generator's effect using transcode and itself, and you can make access code here. This will gain 3k effective Code Generator as well to chain block. Not that it matters because your opponent can't respond, but it means if you do access as Chainlink 2, your opponent can't respond to Code Generator sending. Now, one thing you can do, believe it or not, and you might not, you're like, what? Is if you actually brought back a level 4 here, you could send, where are you? Sigma. And because you don't have a monster in the extra monster zone, you can bring back the Sigma and make a rank 4. Or, in the scenario, which I'm pretty sure I do have a level 4, with like future aspects, let's say we did it this way. This is just to show off the MathMech version, you don't need to. So So link these together. You can sync these two together, and you can go into this guy, and then you've got the ability to put like not you need to. Access code still has 1, 2, 3 options in the graveyard. And we didn't search a dark as well, because we didn't start search a dark off of Code Talker. So you can actually trigger the effect, because you've made an access code, to search out a dark, which can be anything. You can bring out an IB, it doesn't really matter. Again, all just overextension. Overextension is all this is. A quick Billion Blades, because why not? And then what we can do here is, you could link these two together and make Avramax. Really doesn't matter. Like, I'm just overextending here for no apparent reason, because your access code, the only reason you'd do that is you would then, access code would then have 5 pops, which would be quite funny actually, so I am going to do that just because it's funny. To make your Avramax, and then you can then use the effective access code to pop 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Avramax pops 5 cards. You can attack with your Geomath mech. Geomath mech, as long as it destroys a monster by battle, and also you can send off the Billion Blades as well. So let's just send, I don't know, send a subtraction, because you can. He can then pop 2 more cards. You've popped 7 cards, and then you're attacking him for 53 and 3k for game. So what are you going to do? And you still have a cool buy, and if you could find a way of getting Ibly to the board and then link it off, then even more. But yeah, just overextension for the sake of overextending, but you can see what this deck can do, is why I love it. Now, obviously, it does get fragile because the build isn't designed to go second to break boards out of its natural position. And what I mean by that is the deck can naturally break boards on its own. It just can't play through multiple negates, and that is where Dark Rulers, Droplets, all of that stuff can come into play to help you do that. Imagine just going Dark Ruler no more, Lightning Storm to clear the back row, and then you play your entire board, because keep in mind your combos are only like 2-card combos. You can play your entire board, even a 3-card combo with Ibly, and then you lock your opponent in an Ibly, and you've cleared their entire board. Like, they're going to be pissed. They're like, bro, you just got beaten by Cyverses. And that is it. And that's why I love this deck. I just think it's so fun. I mean, it's got, like, yes, it's fragile, but it has such a cool power ceiling. And unlike a couple of other decks where they are fragile, this actually has a main deck out to lock out Nibiru's, to lock out interruptions, to lock out Gammas, and then also on top of that, you're giving your opponent a floodgate that, like I said, if you look at an Eldritch Zoo deck, when they're facing down a Nightmare Corrupted Ibly, how can they get out of it apart from running it into your Avramax? And that's where your Salamangrates come in, because if you put in the Salamangrate Sanctuary, then your opponent can't just run over it. Virtual World, they need to tribute. So in Virtual World, they need to tribute, which uses up their normal summon already. And then as long as you can negate all of the other cards that come off the back of that, which you can do with your Counter Trap, plus you've also got your Trigate Wizard, then they're going to struggle. If you drop it against a Drytron, they just don't play. Like, unless they open up Manju, and even if they open up Manju, they need to then link into like a Nightmare Unicorn. Nightmare Phoenix, just to get rid of Ibly. It's like, okay, cool, so you've committed your normal summon, you've linked it away, I still then have the negates off of the back of Trigate and the Counter Trap, and you've already used up one of your monsters. It's like, and you've got to open up a Manju or a card that can be normal summoned. It's just like, you're going to make it difficult on yourself. Anyway, that is it. That's why I love this deck. That's why it's anti-meta. I think it's so powerful, and I can't wait to give another run at it, update it again, and try, especially if the ban list changes this and gives us back Firewall, try to keep it updated as well. I think it's going to be incredibly powerful and incredibly fun. So, yeah. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Until next time, guys, as absolutely always, stay safe and happy dueling.